OBS has been uncooperative, to say the least. So, for some reason, I have to keep disconnecting and reconnecting the account. I've never had this problem with the software. I updated it. I did all the stuff I could think to do. It's just seems to want to disconnect and reconnect, and it fixes the problem over and over again. So what's causing that? Who knows? Probably something that they did in an update that's gonna have to a bug that's gonna have to be fixed. But uh, I did the work on this and uh, already. So I mean, I wanted to share it because it's kind of it was the next thing to do, but OBS was being cantankerous and bleh. This is Adobe Dimension, and it's pretty cool software. I use it from time to time, but to be honest, I use Mesh Mixer and Tinkercad for, I mean, a lot of stuff because those are they're very quick and easy to throw things together. This has got many more options. And the option that I needed out of this was its ability to work with text. Adobe's has a lot of software that works with text. It happens that their 3D software does a better job working with text than some of the other stuff I had access to. So that's what you're looking at here for. And the text I'm referring to is, of course, this story, the Chin Labs historic site. It is my house. I made up this story, and technically the story is much longer. If you go back up here to the top and look at the top, this is the full blown version. But the other day I made the other day I made a test print just to kind of get a look to see what it looked like. And yeah, I mean, I already shared this thing, but it's like way too much text. Way too much text. I don't know what's the camera won't allow me to focus small enough. But even if you could, that's like 1 point, 2 point text. I can barely. I know what it says, and I can barely see what it says and read it underneath a magnifying glass. So I decreased the amount of text. I went through and decreased the amount of text. I cleaned it up and got rid of some of the descriptive stuff in there. I mean, some of the stuff that wasn't quite necessary to make the story move from one time in, from the past and into the future. That was the point, was to be able to connect the past to the future in the historic landmark site, right? So I was able to make all that happen with the space I got here on my rewrite. And uh, I don't know how. 156 words is what I've got now. So 156 words. My original piece was, let's see, 519. So yeah, it's a huge difference in how much space it'll take up and how big I can get the text. Um, so that's I think that I'm in a good position to make it happen. I'll go ahead and read my updated text here. It says Chin Labs historic site. In 1681, French explorer Genevieve Judet established La Chinlave, the washed oak, near Council Oak, while accompanying Robert de La Salle's expedition. She built a large stone oven and opened the region's first bistrat, creating a gathering place for travelers and local leaders. Fort St. Joseph operated nearby from 1691 to 1795. Le Chin La fell out of use when Pierre Navarre opened his trade post at what is now known as Leaper Park. When South Bend was founded in 1865, the site had become farmland, leaving only the collapsed oven stones. A fieldstone home was built on the site in 1920. And in 1945, the stones from Genevieve Judet's oven were used to construct a large outdoor barbecue. The property is now known as Chin Labs, named for the current owners Shannon Jin, honoring La Chin Lave. The historic stones remain incorporated into the gardens, preserving over 3 centuries of local history. So some of that is true. Like LaSalle did land right up the street here at Council Oak. That's a real spot. That's the name of the neighborhood that I live in. And Pierre Navarre did open a trade post downtown South Bend at Leaper Park. And Park is still there today. So those things did happen. Uh, as far as I know, nobody ever built a bistro here, though. So it could have happened in some in a multiverse in some universe. It happened where everything is possible. It happened. How about that? I picked a multiverse where I just picked a multiverse where it happened and drew it over here. So I condensed the what is that 550 600 words that was originally down to this 150 words whatever it is, can't remember now off the top of my head, but and it gave me a more room to work. So now whenever I looked at moving lines from here from one location to the next, you can see on my layers over here that each layer of text is just one line of text, one line. So I kind of forced my own return points off of this original text and dropped that in there to get this text in. So if you go up and down through here, these are all individual lines up and down through here. So yeah, and then the cylinders are the dots on the sides. Of course, those are all the four corners, are all objects there on the model. So I just went through and copy and pasted. So like if you take one of these lines and look at it here, like take this line here, it's down here you can see that I got the option to transform where it's located at, move it up and down, in and out with the rest of them. But that's how you get things oriented and lined up. And then down here I can change the text that's in this box. So that is the text that is that on that line there. And if you look, and the next one, it's the same thing. It's just the next line of text. So each one of these is another line of text. And I copy and pasted line by line from over here on where I worked out my dialogue. So that was the trick. There was just to copy and paste, get this laid out, and figured out how I wanted it to look, then drop it back over here in Dimension, line by line, to lay out what should be a placard. You can see that it is indeed a 3D object. See, it's the plaque. It is indeed a 3D object. All right, so there's that. But yeah, I think that and it's printing now. I got a test print printing. This is 60% the actual size. It's about as big as I can fit on my plate. There, you can see it takes up my whole plate in one print. So, in another 12 hours or so, I'll have a completed test print to see how uh, the change in the text looks. The problem was with that 550, 600 words, uh, even if I made that 40% bigger, which was the size of the file, the size that I intend the sign to be, like 18 inches by 16 inches roughly, 16 inches by 14 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood. Because that's about how big that's that's about too much bigger. It'll look ridiculous up there in the pole, but and it'll be unwieldy to like this is not very much material here, so you know having that flopping in there, it'll start to curl and all these things out in the sun pretty quick. So it'll take some work. Even after I get this thing printed, this thing is definitely going to need some more work. But yeah, that's kind of the point here. I have to I had to print this 40% bigger. This was 60% printed at 60%, and it's so small you can't read it at all. So I thought, well, when I add another 40% to it, that ain't gonna change nothing. So it does look like a plaque, though. It just looks like a plaque that you can't read text on it. So I'm hoping that reducing the amount of text will make it to where I can read the text now. So, and then the next trick would be to make it big enough to where you can read it from 2 or 3 foot back from the sidewalk. People have to get up into your right on the pole to see it because it'll be on the pole. That's about 2.5, 3 foot back off the sidewalk. It's got a light pole up there. So, yeah, that's the trickety trick on this thing here. But test print didn't work. Too many words. So we'll print another one. And it's well on its way. So, all right. I'm not going to let this run for the whole print. I don't see any cause in that. But I definitely wanted to share a little bit about uh, Adobe Dimension because um, if you are going to work with a little bit of text, 3D printed text, uh, it may be your best option, as far as I can tell, because it has some pretty decent options over here, like the space between the letters, the space between the lines. All these things right here. You can change the size of the text, the depth of the text. So there, it gives you some options on the text itself. It gives you some different fonts. It gives me a whole list of fonts, and I made it bold because I thought that bold would make him a little bit thicker and easier to stand out on this placard. So I made it bold. So yeah, all those things together, I think, make it a better choice to do the text. If you only had a couple words, if you was just doing somebody's name or something like that, then Tinkercad does that just fine. But this having this much text, Tinkercad was going to fail, so it was going to be really difficult to get things to look good. This does a pretty good job. Just had to get it laid out and think it out, and there it is. So whenever the test after the test print's ready, I'll share a little bit about that, and then uh, I'll make decisions on moving forward with the final product. See if it's ready.